Sebastian always surprises me with little gestures. It shows he is willing to fight for me. Maybe you should be careful. That's what my fiancé told me, right to my face, while comparing me to her coworker. At that moment, I knew I had to be braver. I decided to walk away. I'm a 29-year-old guy, and I was engaged to Lisa, who's 27. We'd been together for 3 years and living together for the last year and a half. Things felt incredibly solid until about 2 months ago when her entire demeanor seemed to flip. Looking back now, I can clearly identify all the red flags I missed. But back then, it blindsided me. I proposed to her last year in the same park where we had our very first official date. She actually cried tears of joy and immediately started showing the ring to everyone. The waitress, people at the supermarket, her coworkers, mine, every single person heard about how perfect the moment was and how excited she was to plan the wedding. We set the date for the coming fall and started organizing what felt like the perfect celebration of our commitment. That's when the subtle shift started. I was so focused on planning our future and making her happy that I genuinely didn't notice the gradual changes in her behavior. About 6 months ago, Lisa got a promotion that put her working much closer with the sales team. She started coming home every day with new stories, tales of her new responsibilities, the interesting projects she was diving into, the office politics she was learning to navigate, and, most frequently, her new coworker, Sebastian. Initially, Sebastian was just another name in her rotation of work anecdotes. Sebastian had a great idea for the spring campaign, she'd say, or Sebastian knows this amazing downtown restaurant we should try. These were just normal office tidbits that raised zero concern. I was happy she was making new work friends and felt more challenged by her job. She'd been complaining for months about the boredom in her old role, so this promotion seemed like exactly the change she needed. But the references to Sebastian started piling up. It wasn't just occasional mentions, it was daily, several times in every conversation. It was always Sebastian this and Sebastian that. Apparently, Sebastian had an authoritative opinion on literally everything. The movies we should watch, the restaurants we should try, the best vacation spots, and even how we decorated our home. She even showed him pictures of our place. Sebastian says we should add more plants to the living room, she'd announce, moving the same coffee table ornaments for the 3rd time that month. Sebastian thinks the Thai restaurant we love is overrated. He knows a more authentic spot downtown. He even went to the concert we'd wanted to attend. He said the acoustics from our seats were terrible, she mentioned. Good thing we didn't spend the money. I began to feel like Sebastian was an unwelcome third party in our relationship, offering unsolicited feedback on our life through Lisa. It was strange, but I tried to dismiss it as typical coworker interaction. However, whenever I asked for more details about him, like what he was like, how long he'd been at the company, or if he was married, she'd just shut me down. She'd defensively insist he was just a colleague and that I was being paranoid for tracking her work conversations. She always made me feel like I was the irrational one for showing basic interest in her professional life. The real tipping point happened about 2 months ago. Lisa started staying late at work much more often, claiming they had huge projects with tight deadlines. She also began joining her team for drinks after work and often wouldn't get home until 9 or 10 at night. During our dinners, she was constantly glued to her phone, smiling at messages in a way that felt different from her usual social media scrolling. It was secretive and oddly personal. If I accidentally glanced at the screen, she would quickly angle it away or flip it face down. Look, I'm not an insecure or jealous guy. I've never been the type to check a phone or demand hourly check-ins. But I couldn't help but pay attention because her entire energy was different. The late nights always seemed to align with Sebastian's presence. The team outings only happened when Sebastian suggested them, and her phone usage was a radical change. She used to leave it lying around carelessly. Now, it was always face down and within arm's reach, like it contained top-secret files. About 6 weeks ago, we were making stir-fry, a standard weeknight meal, when she casually dropped a bombshell that changed everything. You know, she said, chopping vegetables with an intense focus, Sebastian asked me out today. I almost lost the pan I was holding. It clanged against the stovetop as I frantically tried to steady it. What? I managed to ask. She just kept chopping, as if she had just commented on the humidity. Yeah, he asked if I wanted to have dinner and see that new romantic comedy this weekend. I told him I'm engaged, of course, but it was sort of flattering. I carefully set the pan down and turned to face her completely. Your coworker asked you on a date, and your first reaction is that it was flattering? She finally looked up from the vegetables, looking genuinely confused by my sharp tone. Well, yes. It's nice to know other people find me attractive, don't you think? I mean, we've been together for 3 years. It's good to know I still have it. Lisa, you are engaged, I insisted. The only appropriate response when a coworker asks you out is an immediate rejection and a clear boundary, not feeling flattered. She rolled her eyes, making me feel like the irrational one again. Oh, relax please, she said dismissively. I told him I'm engaged and unavailable. I can't exactly control what others think of me or how attractive they find me. I just looked at her, trying to absorb this carefree attitude toward what was clearly a total disregard for professional and personal boundaries. Did you tell him not to do it again? Did you make it absolutely clear that kind of behavior is out of line? I handled it fine. That should have been the end of it. A normal, reasonable person would have firmly shut down the advances, set undeniable boundaries, and perhaps even gone to HR if they persisted. But this wasn't the end. Over the next 2 weeks, the mentions of Sebastian didn't just continue. They took on a deeply competitive edge. Lisa started drawing comparisons between us that made me feel like I was continuously failing some secret test she had set up. Sebastian brought coffee for everyone in the office this morning. He remembered exactly how each person takes theirs. He is so thoughtful and attentive. Sebastian is planning an amazing weekend getaway to the wine country with his friends. He really knows how to live life and maximize every moment. Sebastian shared his workout regimen with me. He's in unbelievable shape. He runs marathons and does CrossFit. He's so dedicated to his fitness. Every single remark felt like a subtle jab, as if she was constantly measuring me against this phantom ideal, and I was perpetually falling short. When I brought her flowers on a random Tuesday, just because I was thinking of her, she'd mention how Sebastian bought flowers for the entire office for Administrative Professionals Day. If I suggested a new restaurant, she'd immediately compare it negatively to one Sebastian had raved about. When I talked about my plans for home maintenance projects on the weekend, she'd bring up how Sebastian was spending his rock climbing or training for a triathlon. Every conversation became an unwelcome opportunity to hold Sebastian up as the gold standard of manhood. I was left feeling like the boring, predictable fiancé who couldn't possibly measure up to this ideal of masculine excellence. The true breaking point happened 3 weeks ago during a simple night at home. We were relaxing, watching Netflix, and eating takeout Thai when she brought up Sebastian again. But this time, something was truly different. A sickening knot tightened in my stomach. "You know," she said, snuggled into me on the couch, yet somehow miles away, "Sebastian asked me out again today." I hit the pause button on the show. "Excuse me?" "Yeah," she repeated. "He asked if I'd changed my mind since the last time. He was pretty persistent. He said he couldn't stop thinking about me and that he thought we'd have incredible chemistry." She was actually smiling as she recounted this, as if it were a sweet romantic story, not a description of sustained workplace harassment. "Lisa, that's completely unacceptable. If he ignores your clear boundaries after you said no, that is a serious issue. You need to talk to HR immediately. That is textbook harassment." She waved her hand dismissively. "It's not that deep. He's just being persistent. Some women like that in a man. It shows he's truly interested and willing to fight for what he wants." The way she emphasized some women made my blood run cold, as if I understood she was hinting that she counted herself among them. It was a clear implication that my respect for her commitment was somehow less desirable than his relentless insistence. "But you told him no again, didn't you? You made it perfectly clear that his behavior has to stop." She paused. It was too long. When the person you love hesitates on a question that should be automatic, your heart always understands the truth before your brain catches up. "Well, I told him I'm engaged." "That is not the same as telling him no, Lisa. It's not even close to the same thing." "I know, but," she began, fidgeting with the remote. "I don't know. Maybe it feels good to be wanted by someone for a change, to feel that someone is willing to take a chance on you." There it was. The truth she'd been dancing around for weeks. I felt like I had been physically gut-punched. Breathing suddenly became difficult. What on earth is that supposed to mean? She shrugged, still avoiding my gaze. "I mean, we've been together for 3 years. We're comfortable. We're stable. When was the last time you really pursued me? That you made me feel like you were actually fighting for me? That you couldn't stand to live without me? I proposed to you 8 months ago. I am actively planning our wedding. I buy you random flowers. I take you on surprise dates. I tell you I love you every day. How is that not pursuing you?" "That's different," she shot back. "It's predictable. It's a routine. It's safe. Sebastian makes me feel excited, like I'm worth taking risks for, like I'm worth pursuing even when he knows he might lose." I stared at her, trying to comprehend what I was hearing. My fiancé was essentially telling me that her coworker's inappropriate flirting made her feel better about herself than our entire 3-year shared life. She was pitting the manufactured thrill of forbidden attention against the genuine love and profound commitment we had built. "So, what exactly do you want me to do about it?" I asked, already knowing the devastating answer. Lisa's face brightened, as if I had finally submitted to the test she'd been grading me on. "Maybe you could just step up your game a little," she suggested. "You know, put in more effort. Show me you don't take me for granted." Sebastian always surprises me with little thoughtful things. He brings my favorite coffee, sends me funny memes throughout the day, asks detailed questions about my projects, and he actually listens to the answers. It would be nice if my own fiancé showed that kind of attention and interest. Step up my game. As if I should be in direct competition for my own fiancé's attention against a man who was openly trying to destroy our relationship. As if 3 years of unwavering love, commitment, and partnership meant nothing unless I was constantly proving I deserved her attention. I went to bed that night with a terrible, hard knot in my stomach. Still, I decided to try. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had gotten too relaxed, too comfortable in the routine. Perhaps after all this time, I really needed to make a bigger effort to show her how much she meant to me. Maybe this Sebastian situation was actually a wake-up call to become a better boyfriend, a better fiancé. So, I stepped up my game. The next morning, I woke up at 5:30 a.m. and made her absolute favorite breakfast. Authentic Belgian waffles with fresh strawberries and homemade whipped cream. just like she always ordered at that fancy brunch spot downtown. I tucked a sweet note into her coffee cup, telling her how beautiful she looked and how lucky I was to wake up beside her. I even sent flowers to her office with a card that read, "Just because you are amazing and I want everyone to know it." Her response that evening was chilling. "Thanks for the breakfast. It was a really sweet effort." Oh, and Sebastian loved the flowers. He said whoever sent them has excellent taste and really knows how to treat a woman. Sebastian loved the flowers. The flowers I sent to my fiancé, and she was relaying the compliment her coworker had given them. It wasn't "thank you for thinking of me," but Sebastian liked them. I tried again the following week. I planned a huge surprise weekend getaway to a charming bed and breakfast she'd once spotted in a travel magazine. I booked couples massages. I made reservations at the fanciest, most exclusive restaurant in the area. I even bought tickets for a wine tasting. The entire extravagant weekend cost me nearly $1,000, money I truly couldn't spare. She seemed happy during the trip, but even during our romantic candlelit dinner overlooking the valley, she still managed to bring up Sebastian. "Sebastian came to a place like this with his ex-girlfriend last year," she mentioned. "He said the service there was better, but the atmosphere here is very nice, very romantic. He has such good taste in restaurants." I honestly thought I was losing my mind. No matter what grand gesture I made, it somehow always became a springboard for her to mention Sebastian. It was as if he had moved into her head and was acting as a permanent narrator for our entire relationship. Every single romantic thing I did was filtered through the lens of what Sebastian might think of it. The final, absolute straw came last week. I had been planning this for months. I managed to get tickets to her favorite band, buying them from a scalper for far more than I should have. Months ago, she had said she desperately wanted to see them live, but thought she'd missed her chance since they rarely toured. I was so excited to surprise her with something I knew would genuinely make her happy. I gave her the tickets after dinner, fully expecting her to be ecstatic. Instead, she looked at them for a moment and said, "Oh wow, these are fantastic." Sebastian mentioned he was also trying to get tickets for this concert, but he couldn't find any. Maybe we could all go together. It would be fun to have someone else who really appreciates their music. Go all together to the romantic date I had planned and paid for? She wanted to invite the guy who had been harassing her for weeks. She wanted to turn our private couples night into a group outing that included her workplace admirer. "No, Lisa, these are for us. Our date. Just the two of us." She frowned, acting like I was the unreasonable one. "Why are you getting so weird about Sebastian? We're just friends now. We already sorted everything out." Friends don't repeatedly ask out engaged people. Friends respect boundaries. He's not asking me out anymore. We talked, and we decided to be just friends. Everything is completely professional. This was completely new information. "When did you have that talk?" "Yesterday when we went to lunch." That familiar punch returned to my gut, that sinking, awful feeling that had become so constant lately. "You went to lunch with him?" "It was just a working lunch," she defended. "We needed to discuss the Morrison account, and it was easier to talk outside the office where people wouldn't interrupt us." I pulled out my phone and quickly looked up the restaurant she named. It was an Italian place downtown, known for its intimate booths, dim lighting, and reputation as a prime date spot. It was absolutely not a business meeting locale. "Lisa, this place doesn't exactly scream working lunch. It's famous for being a romantic restaurant." She immediately became defensive, crossing her arms and giving me that look that suggested I was completely insane. "Why are you investigating me? That's very controlling behavior. I can't believe you're spying on me like this." "I'm not investigating you. I'm trying to figure out why my fiancé is going to romantic lunches with a guy who has been trying to ask her out for weeks." "It wasn't romantic. For God's sake, you are so paranoid. This is exactly what Sebastian said would happen." There he was again. Sebastian apparently also weighed in on the dynamics of our relationship, and she was repeating his analysis as if it were gospel truth, instead of transparent manipulation. "What did Sebastian say would happen?" I asked, barely keeping my voice level. "He said you would probably get jealous and possessive as soon as you realize that other men find me attractive," she stated. "He said insecure men always react like that when their girlfriends start getting attention from confident and successful men." I stood there, looking at my fiancé, who had just told me that the man actively trying to destroy our life together had accurately predicted my reaction to his attempts, and that she agreed with him. She was literally repeating his character assessment of me and our relationship as if it were an objective, wise conclusion. "Lisa, are you actually hearing yourself right now? You are engaged to me, but you are prioritizing the opinions and predictions of a guy who has been disrespecting our relationship for months." "He is not disrespecting our relationship," she shot back. "He is just being honest about what he observes. Maybe if you put in even half the effort that Sebastian puts into understanding and appreciating me, we wouldn't be having this conversation." And then she said it. The sentence that slammed the door shut. The words that made it crystal clear the relationship was already dead. I just hadn't accepted it yet. "You know what, Ryan? Maybe you should be grateful that someone as attractive and successful as Sebastian finds me interesting. It proves you are out of your league. Most women would have already accepted his invitation, especially when their own fiancé is putting in zero effort." Out of my league. I stood in stunned silence for a long moment, letting the sheer meaning sink in. My fiancée had just told me I should be grateful another man wanted her, because it proved she was too good for me. That I should consider myself lucky she hadn't already traded me in for this supposedly superior male specimen. You know what? I said finally, standing up straight. You are absolutely right. She looked genuinely shocked, likely having expected me to argue, grovel, or beg for her forgiveness. Yes, I am out of my league. I deserve someone who actually values me, who respects our relationship, and who doesn't use the attention of other men to make me feel inadequate. I deserve someone who sees me as the prize, not someone who makes me compete for basic loyalty and respect. I went straight to the bedroom, grabbed my laptop, and started searching for apartments online. She followed me, suddenly panicked by my unnerving calm. Wait, what are you doing? I'm stepping up my game, I replied without looking at her. I'm leveling up to a woman who doesn't think I have to compete with other men for her basic attention. I'm leveling up to someone who recognizes my worth. Ryan, you are being completely ridiculous. I never said you weren't enough. I laughed out loud. It was a genuine, surprised laugh at the total absurdity of her denial. You just told me that I should be grateful another man wants you because I'm out of your league. How am I supposed to interpret that as anything other than you thinking you're too good for me? She immediately tried to backpedal, realizing she'd gone way too far. That's not what I meant. I was just trying to make a point about putting more effort into a relationship. I didn't mean you weren't enough. The point has been made, Lisa. It's crystal clear. You think Sebastian is better than me, and you think I should be thankful you're settling for me instead of upgrading to him. I spent the next hour diligently searching for apartments while she cycled through justifying her behavior and accusing me of overreacting. Every excuse she made only managed to dig her hole deeper. Sebastian and I are only friends now. Nothing inappropriate happened. You went to lunch with him yesterday at a romantic restaurant. It wasn't a date. You were professionally working with him at a place known for intimate dinners. And while you were there, you discussed how jealous and possessive I am. I never said we talked about you. You yourself told me he predicted exactly how I would react. It went on, with Lisa trying to make me doubt my own sanity, trying to convince me that her emotional affair with Sebastian was somehow my fault for not trying hard enough. It always came back to the same refrain. If only you had stepped up your game. If you had made more effort. If you had been more like Sebastian, none of this would have happened. It was all my fault for feeling secure and comfortable in our relationship instead of constantly striving for her attention. I found a decent one-bedroom apartment about 20 minutes away and submitted the application that very night. Lisa watched me fill out the forms, finally understanding the gravity of my actions. Are you seriously going to throw away 3 years over this? I am not throwing anything away. You threw it away the moment you decided that Sebastian's attention was more valuable than our relationship. You threw it away when you chose to feed your ego instead of protecting what we built together. I chose you. I'm still here with you, not with him. You are here because it's convenient and safe, but your mind and your heart are completely preoccupied with him. You've made that painfully clear over the last 2 months. Then she started crying. A few weeks earlier, the tears might have worked, but not anymore. I could see them for what they really were, a final, desperate attempt to keep her security blanket intact. Please don't do this. I love you. I want to marry you. We can fix this. No. You love the security I provide. You love having a devoted fiancé to support you while you explore your options with Sebastian. That isn't love, Lisa. That's using someone. The next morning, she tried a completely different tactic. She made my favorite breakfast. She put on the lingerie I had bought her for her birthday. She was deploying every trick she'd learned in 3 years to try and manage me. I think we should go to couples therapy, she proposed over coffee, to work this out together. I realize I made some mistakes. There's nothing left to work out. You want a man who constantly competes for you against others. I want a woman who firmly shuts the door to other men without me even having to ask. We want completely different things. I can change. I will set much better boundaries with Sebastian. I'll transfer to another team. It's too late. Lisa, the fact that you have to consciously tell yourself to set boundaries with a man who is actively pursuing you tells me everything I need to know about your core character and your priorities. Then she snapped, dropping the sweet act and letting her true feelings show. Fine. You want the truth? Sebastian makes me feel alive in a way you never have. He's ambitious. He's exciting. He challenges me intellectually. He actually listens to me when I talk instead of just waiting for his turn to speak. He makes me feel like anything is possible. Then go with Sebastian, I told her simply. Problem solved. Maybe I will. Perfect. I genuinely hope you'll be very happy together. That left her utterly speechless. She had been waiting for me to put up more of a fight, to compete even harder, to prove I was worthy of her attention. Instead, I was calmly giving her exactly what she claimed she wanted. The freedom to pursue the man who made her feel alive. I was approved for the apartment the very next day. I started moving my belongings while Lisa was at work, only taking what was specifically mine and leaving behind everything we had purchased as a couple. I left the engagement ring on the kitchen counter with a note. Since you think Sebastian is an upgrade, maybe he can get you one of these next time. Good luck with your new relationship. I honestly thought she would feel relieved. After all, She was now free to pursue her connection with the wonderful Sebastian without the tiresome interference of her boring, routine, and utterly inadequate fiancé. But she wasn't relieved at all. My phone started blowing up around 6 o'clock that evening when she got home and found my note. 17 missed calls, 34 text messages, and they just kept coming. The tone was frantic, desperate, and then furious. Where are you? This is completely insane. Come home right now. I can't believe you're acting so childish over nothing. Sebastian doesn't even know I'm single now. That last message was particularly enlightening. Sebastian didn't know she was single. That meant she hadn't even told him she was leaving me for him. She had kept me firmly secured as her backup plan, while she cautiously tested the waters with her potential upgrade, refusing to commit fully to either option. I didn't reply to any of the messages. I decided to let her figure things out entirely on her own. The next day, she showed up at my workplace. Security eventually had to escort her out after she created a massive scene in the lobby, shouting that I was destroying our lives over a simple misunderstanding. Half of my coworkers came out to watch the show. One of them told me later, "Dude, I always thought she was a bit self-centered, but that was a whole other level. You seriously dodged a bullet there." The messages persisted for days. The tone violently swung from furious to desperate, then manipulative, and finally back to furious again. I made a terrible mistake. Sebastian isn't even that great when you actually get to know him. I realize now how good we had it. We were perfect. I was just confused. The stress from work made me act crazy. Please come home. I need you. We belong together. It was the classic pattern. Now that her safety net was completely gone, and she had to face the reality of actually pursuing Sebastian without a fallback, our predictable relationship suddenly seemed far more attractive. My boring stability looked much better than the uncertain, thrilling excitement of Sebastian. But that revelation had arrived far too late. I heard from mutual friends what happened next, and frankly, it was better than any revenge I could have engineered. Apparently, the Monday after I moved out, Lisa went to work and fully committed to Sebastian, telling him she was single and ready to explore their connection. According to my friend Sarah, who has contacts in Lisa's office, Sebastian was completely blindsided by her sudden availability. It turns out Sebastian thoroughly enjoyed the flirting and the ego boost that came from pursuing a woman who was already committed, but he never wanted anything serious. For him, the chase was the only fun part. The moment Lisa became available and eager, he lost all interest, almost instantly. He told her he didn't want to be a rebound, that maybe they should wait until she had fully processed her breakup, a textbook excuse to distance himself. In less than a week, he was actively avoiding her at work and had already begun pursuing someone new, a young woman from the accounting department who was also engaged. So, Lisa ended up with absolutely no one. She sacrificed her stable, committed relationship for a romantic fantasy that completely vanished the second it became real. And yet, it gets even better. About 2 weeks after my move, Lisa's professional situation utterly collapsed. Apparently, her obsession with Sebastian had caused her performance to tank for months. She missed critical deadlines, showed up late to client meetings, and made several costly mistakes on major campaigns. Her boss had been covering for her due to her solid past performance. But when she started having emotional meltdowns at work over Sebastian's rejection, HR finally intervened. They launched an investigation and discovered that Lisa had been extensively using company time and resources to pursue a personal relationship with a coworker. She had scheduled fake meetings with Sebastian, used work trips to spend time with him, and thoroughly mixed her professional responsibilities with her romantic drama. 3 weeks ago, she was fired. I only found out because she called me at 2 in the morning, crying hysterically and begging me to take her back now that she had supposedly learned her lesson. She had lost her job, couldn't cover her half of the old apartment, and was living back home with her parents while desperately searching for work. I was so incredibly stupid, she sobbed into the phone. I threw away the best thing in my life for a ridiculous fantasy. Please, Ryan. I know I can fix this. We were meant to be together. I truly hope you can fix it with someone else, I told her. But we had something truly special. 3 years together. We were planning our wedding. Our families love each other. We had something special, I agreed. You decided it wasn't enough because it didn't constantly make you feel like a trophy that had to be continuously won. That isn't love, Lisa. That is pure ego and profound insecurity. I know now, she whimpered. I was just confused. Sebastian made me feel things I had never experienced before, and I got carried away. Like what exactly? Insecurity? Competition? The relentless need to constantly prove your own worth? Those aren't good feelings, Lisa. They're toxic, and they destroy relationships. She had no answer for that. The last I heard, Lisa was working as a waitress at a chain restaurant while trying to find another job in her field. Apparently, her old company had put her on a kind of industry blacklist for unprofessional behavior, making it extremely difficult for her to find work in her former field. Meanwhile, Sebastian was promoted to her old position and is now leading the team she used to be a part of. He's still openly flirting with women in the office, having learned absolutely nothing from the whole experience. As for me, I'm doing better than I have in months. My new apartment is definitely smaller than the house I shared with Lisa, but it is entirely mine, and it is peaceful. No drama, no competition, no walking on eggshells, wondering if I'm measuring up to some impossible standard. I've been dating a wonderful woman named Kelly for the last month. We met in a weekend hiking group, and the difference is truly night and day. Kelly doesn't require me to compete for her attention. She never compares me to her coworkers. She doesn't use the interest of other men to manipulate me into trying harder. She is simply present, committed, and happy to be with me without turning our connection into a painful contest I could easily lose. Last night, we were discussing Lisa's behavior, and Kelly said something that really stuck with me. A person who needs to be constantly pursued will never be satisfied with actually being caught. They will always need the thrill of the next chase to feel valuable. That perfectly summarized what Lisa was doing. She wasn't truly in love with Sebastian. She was in love with the feeling of being pursued by Sebastian. The attention, the competition, the drama. All of that made her feel alive in a way that stable, genuine love never could. I was never going to be able to compete with that because the game was fundamentally rigged against me from the start. No matter what I did, it would never be enough because she actually needed the uncertainty and the competition to feel valuable as a person. I realized I had spent the last month of our relationship desperately trying to win a contest that was specifically designed for me to lose. Lisa needed me to fail at keeping her interest so she could fully justify her attraction to Sebastian. Every effort I made only served as proof that I was too desperate and therefore not confident enough to deserve her. The ultimate irony is that by finally walking away, I actually did step up my game. I leveled up to someone who values genuine stability over needless drama, true commitment over superficial competition, and real love over fleeting ego validation. I leveled up to myself, to fully recognizing what I deserve and refusing to settle for anything less. Lisa sent me a final message yesterday. I heard you were dating someone new. I hope you are happy. I didn't reply, but if I had, I would have simply told her, I am. Thank you for teaching me the profound difference between just being wanted and actually being valued. So, that is my story, Reddit. Sometimes, the bravest way to step up your game is to walk away from people who treat love like a competition. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments.